Welcome to Zoe Crossdressing. Rain traced narrow lines down the windows, tapping out a steady, unforgiving rhythm. Inside the dim apartment, Alex sat hunched on the sagging couch, the television casting restless light across his face. The noise filled the room, but none of it registered. The air carried the dull scent of old coffee and yesterday's leftovers, proof of days blurring together without purpose. He pressed his fingers into his temples, fighting a tiredness that sleep never touched. 21 was supposed to feel electric. Instead, his life had shrunk into a dull loop: classes, silence, endless scrolling, sleep. Even in crowded rooms, he felt transparent, present, yet unseen. Conversations drained him. Confidence had never learned his name. And then there was Maya. His wife. Just a year ago, they'd stood smiling, young and reckless, swearing promises too big to understand. But even then, the warning signs had been there. Her attention drifting to her phone. The half-hidden smiles. The way his name sometimes sounded distant when she said it. He'd convinced himself it was nothing. Work stress. Life. Anything but the truth. Alex lifted his mug, the last of the coffee still lukewarm, bitterness spreading across his tongue. The refrigerator hummed softly, the only thing alive in the room. Then his phone vibrated. He didn't need to look. But he did. "Alex, I can't keep doing this. I'm sorry. I met someone else." Maya. The words seemed to hang in the air, heavy and toxic. His chest hollowed out as if something vital had been carved away. He read the message again. And again. His hand shook, spilling coffee onto his jeans, unnoticed. Met someone. Each repetition struck deeper, relentless and precise. Rage flared, sharp and brief. He wanted to shatter something. To scream until the walls cracked. Instead, he folded inward, shoulders caving as silent tears slid down his face. He let the despair take him, thick, bone-deep, merciless. Then the doorbell rang. Alex flinched. He scrubbed his face with his sleeve, forcing himself upright. No one should be here. He opened the door cautiously. Elena stood there. Tall. Composed. Her gaze steady, unsettling in how much it seemed to notice. He recognized her immediately, Maya's longtime friend. Always observant. Always a little too sharp. She smiled, calm and deliberate, and stepped inside without waiting. "Alex," she said gently. "I heard. About Maya. About everything." His throat locked. Words refused to come. Elena moved closer, studying him with an intensity that made his stomach twist, like an artist deciding where to press first, already imagining what he could become. "You're exposed right now," she said quietly. Cracked open. Her voice was gentle, almost soothing. "I can help you, but it won't be painless." Alex frowned, uncertainty tightening his chest. "Help, how?" Her lips curved, but there was no kindness in it this time. The smile belonged to someone who already knew the ending. "Someone knows," she said softly. A chill slid down his spine. "Knows what?" "That you're shattered," Elena replied. "And that you don't know how to put yourself back together." She leaned closer. "But I do." He let out a short, empty laugh. "Put me back together? What does that even mean?" "It's not about patching you up," she said, tilting her head as if assessing fine detail. "It's about reshaping you. Becoming someone stronger. Someone captivating. Someone people notice." Her eyes gleamed. Someone entirely new. His heartbeat thundered in his ears. Fear rose, but so did something else. Something dangerous. Her words wrapped around him, heavy with promise. The pull was undeniable. Curiosity clawed at despair. Hope tangled with dread. "I don't get it," he whispered. "You will," Elena replied, her smile smooth and sharp at once. Soon. But first, you have to trust me. Every rational thought screamed at him to refuse. To run. To slam the door on whatever this was. Yet a deeper voice, tired of being overlooked, betrayed, discarded, breathed a single word. Yes. That was all she needed. The rain outside intensified, striking the glass with manic urgency. And Alex, unsteady and uncertain, crossed an invisible line. He stepped toward a future he couldn't comprehend, a future where the person he had been would not survive. He didn't know yet what her help truly meant. How far it would go. How completely it would dismantle him. But the first surrender had already happened. Alex collapsed back onto the couch, Maya's message replaying endlessly in his head. I met someone else. It wasn't just a confession, it was a verdict. He grabbed his phone again, desperate for proof it wasn't real. But every unanswered call, every photo, every trace confirmed it. She hadn't just left, she'd replaced him. And not with someone like him, but with a woman who radiated confidence and ease. He curled inward, breath tight, the weight of the apartment pressing down on him. Her presence lingered everywhere, the faint perfume in the hallway, the mug she always used still sitting untouched. Loss filled the space like a suffocating fog. Then Elena's voice broke through the silence. Alex, she said gently, sitting beside him. Her closeness was grounding and terrifying. Like standing at the edge of something vast, knowing once you stepped forward, there would be no way back. I know you're in pain, Elena said quietly. I know it feels like everything collapsed at once. It's finished, Alex whispered, his voice splintering. She left me. For her. He let out a shaky breath. A woman. How does that even happen? Elena's fingers brushed beneath his chin, lifting his face just enough to meet her gaze. Sometimes people walk away not because you failed them, she said calmly, but because they're chasing something they don't understand. And sometimes, she added, they choose paths they can never undo. Alex stared at her, eyes raw and unfocused. Grief twisted with disbelief inside him. And me? He asked hoarsely. What happens to me now? You stand at a fork in the road, Elena replied, her voice gentle but firm. You can stay here, trapped in loss, replaying what you no longer have. Or you can let me guide you into something else. Someone else. Someone who doesn't need anyone's permission to exist. Her words slid into him like warmth after numbness. Seductive. Dangerous. They didn't just offer comfort, they offered escape. And beneath that promise lurked an unspoken ultimatum, change or remain shattered. Alex shook his head weakly. I can't just stop being who I am. Elena smiled, soft and almost sympathetic. You already have, she said. Life decided that for you the moment Maya walked out. You're exposed now. Unprotected. And that's when reshaping is easiest. Her eyes lingered on him. I can turn you into something striking. Something unforgettable. His stomach clenched. The idea terrified him, changing, becoming unrecognizable. Yet somewhere beneath the fear, a fragile flicker of hope stirred. What do you mean, striking? He asked carefully. Elena's gaze sharpened. I mean presence, she said. Command. Being seen without begging for it. But it requires devotion. A pause. Trust. And surrender. His thoughts spiraled. Surrender to what? To her? To a future he didn't recognize? Fear clawed at him, but so did curiosity. Her calm certainty pulled at him like gravity. You don't need to decide tonight, Elena said, rising to her feet. But don't linger too long. Moments like this don't wait. She closed the door quietly behind her. Alex was alone again. His heart pounded as he sank into the couch, staring blankly at the ceiling. The apartment felt colder, stripped of warmth, heavy with silence. And in that silence, a forbidden thought surfaced. What if she's right? He shook his head sharply. No. He was Alex. A man. A husband, well, not anymore, but still himself. And yet, a faint, trembling voice deep inside whispered something dangerous. Maybe this is the only way forward. Elena's idea had taken root. And Alex, fractured, abandoned, desperate, had no idea how deeply it would grow. Outside, the rain kept falling, relentless and steady. Inside, a different storm was gathering, one that would dismantle his past piece by piece, and rebuild him into something unrecognizable. Alex is emotionally shattered. Elena's manipulation has begun. The first seeds of transformation are planted. He stood at the edge of a decision he didn't yet understand. Fight it, or let it happen. Either way, the story had already begun. Morning arrived without mercy. The apartment felt dense, airless, as if the walls themselves were weighing him down. Pale sunlight slipped through the blinds, thin and hesitant, barely touching the room. Alex hadn't slept. Hunger never came. He remained on the couch, eyes fixed on the dark television, his thoughts spiraling too fast to escape. A quiet knock broke the stillness. Elena, he called out, his voice rough and uneven. Good morning, Alex, she replied as she entered, composed as ever, untouched by the chaos that ruled him. In her hands was a small box, wrapped neatly, almost elegantly. I thought today would be a good place to begin. His pulse spiked. Begin, what? She set the box down on the coffee table with care. Yesterday would have crushed anyone, she said calmly. Being abandoned like that, especially the way Maya left you. Her eyes held him in place. But you're not as weak as you feel. You just haven't been shown how to see yourself yet. Alex stiffened. Fear mixed with irritation. You don't get to fix me, he said, though the words faltered. Not like this. Elena's smile was soft, almost reassuring, but it didn't reach her eyes. Not like what, she asked. I'm not broken the way you think, he snapped, then faltered. I'm a man. I don't need whatever this is. She lowered herself in front of him, resting her hands lightly against his knees. But you do need something, she said gently. Right now, you're raw. Stripped down. Abandoned. That makes you open. Her voice dropped. Open to becoming something new. His breath hitched. New, how? Without answering, she lifted the lid of the box. Inside lay carefully folded fabric, soft, delicate, unmistakable. Stockings. Lace-trimmed undergarments. A silk slip that caught the light. The presentation was almost ceremonial. Heat rushed to Alex's face. His muscles locked. You expect me to wear that, he whispered. Yes, Elena said simply. No hesitation. No shame. I want you to experience what it's like to see yourself differently. To feel the shift. Transformation begins there. He pushed himself back, knocking lightly against the table. No. I can't. I'm not, this isn't, his voice broke. I'm not something for you to experiment on. She leaned closer, her tone low and steady. This isn't a game, she said. It's release. It's shedding what no longer serves you. Look at yourself, Alex. You're drowning. You crave direction. And I can give it to you. His hands shook. He turned his face away, ashamed of how deeply her words landed. The truth was brutal, he wanted to be seen. Wanted to matter. Wanted someone to tell him he could still become something worthwhile. I won't force you, Elena continued, her voice smooth, almost hypnotic. Not yet. The first step is small. Private. Just you and a mirror. Try it once. No witnesses. No judgment. He stared at the box. At the fabric. At her. Every instinct screamed to run. To stop this before it went any further. But another voice, quiet, exhausted, desperate, whispered something else. Maybe this is the only way to feel anything at all. His throat tightened. His fingers twitched. I'll try, he said at last, barely audible. Elena's lips curved, just slightly. Not triumph. Something colder. Good, she said. That's enough. She placed the garments into his hands with surprising care, as if entrusting him with something sacred. The fabric felt cool and impossibly soft against his skin. His heart pounded. His palms dampened. The weight of that single decision pressed down on him, heavy, irreversible. One step had been taken. As Alex backed toward the bedroom, Elena followed at an unhurried pace, her gaze never loosening its grip. Remember, she said evenly, this isn't weakness. It's discovery. Trust me. He shut the bedroom door with a soft click and leaned against it, breathing shallowly. The garments lay across the bed like a quiet challenge. Fear coiled in his chest, tangled with embarrassment, and beneath it all, a strange, flickering charge he didn't recognize but couldn't ignore. With shaking hands, he lifted the silk slip. It slid over his skin, cool and impossibly smooth, sending a shiver through him. Piece by piece, he dressed, every movement careful, uncertain. The fabric fit differently than anything he'd worn before, changing the way he stood, the way he felt inside his own body. He approached the mirror. The person staring back wasn't quite him. His frame looked softer, his posture unfamiliar. The stockings lengthened his legs, the silk traced lines he'd never paid attention to before. A rush of emotion hit him all at once, embarrassment, disbelief, unease, and something dangerously close to wonder. Elena's voice reached him through the haze. Look, she said. Really look. See what's possible. And he did. For the first time since Maya left, something stirred inside him, not comfort, not relief, but a spark. Small. Unsettling. Alive. Even as his pulse raced and heat climbed his cheeks, Alex had no idea how far this single moment would carry him, or how impossible it would be to turn back. The room felt tighter now, as if the walls had crept inward. Alex remained in front of the mirror, still dressed in silk and nylon, staring at a version of himself he barely recognized. He traced the unfamiliar outline of his body, the reality of what he'd done settling heavily in his chest. Elena sat on the bed, watching patiently. The beginning is always the hardest, she said. No one changes all at once. I don't want to change, Alex said weakly. I don't want this. She smiled, restrained and knowing. It's not about wanting it yet. It's about enduring it. Learning it. And one day, she added softly, needing it. She placed a small case in his hands. Makeup. His stomach nodded. I've never, this will look wrong. I'll look stupid. At first, Elena agreed calmly. That's part of it. The old self has to loosen its grip before anything new can form. He hesitated, then nodded. Under her quiet direction, he followed each step. The brush felt awkward in his fingers. The colors unfamiliar. Every pass across his skin felt intimate, unsettling, as if something fundamental were being rewritten. He avoided the mirror at first, then glanced despite himself, and flinched. Don't fight it, Elena murmured. Stop judging. Just observe. Slowly, the changes became visible. His features softened. His expression shifted. His eyes seemed larger somehow, more open. The sight sent a confusing tremor through him, part fear, part fascination. Then Elena held out the final piece. A long, dark wig, smooth and heavy in her hands. Hair changes everything, she said simply. Panic surged. I can't. You can, she replied, calm and certain. Just for a moment. His hands shook as he lifted it, breath shallow. With careful movements, he settled it into place. And as the strands fell around his face, framing it in a way that felt utterly unfamiliar, Alex realized, with a mix of dread and awe, that something irreversible had already begun. The weight of it surprised him. The wig felt foreign, almost too real, as if it carried meaning beyond fabric. He adjusted it clumsily, then lifted his eyes to the mirror and stopped breathing. The image staring back didn't belong to any clear category. It wasn't the man he had always known, but it wasn't fully anything else either. The figure looked exposed, unfinished, caught between definitions. That uncertainty sent a chill through him. Elena's voice cut cleanly through his shock. "Posture," she said. "Confidence isn't something you feel first. You perform it until your body believes you. Straighten your back. Lift your chin." Alex obeyed, awkwardly crossing the room. Every step felt wrong. The sway of his movement was exaggerated by the stockings, every misstep amplified. When his foot caught the edge of the rug and he stumbled, humiliation hit him like heat, fast, merciless. Elena let out a quiet laugh. Not cruel. Almost pleased. "There," she said. "That discomfort? That's where it begins. Don't reject it. Learn from it. One day, this clumsiness becomes elegance." Time blurred. He walked. He stopped. He started again. He applied makeup, wiped it away, tried once more. Each attempt stripped something familiar from him. Elena rarely spoke, but her presence filled the room, heavy and unavoidable. By evening, his body shook with exhaustion. Yet beneath the fatigue, something had shifted. The version of Alex who had woken up shattered that morning felt distant. In his place stood something uncertain, shaped by guidance, control, and his own hesitant compliance. At last, Elena rose. "That's enough," she said calmly. "One more look." Alex turned to the mirror. Silk clung to him. Makeup softened his face. Hair spilled over his shoulders. His pulse thundered as he stared. The reflection felt layered, like two identities overlapping imperfectly. The boy he had been still existed, buried deep. But something else stirred now, fragile, frightened, yet undeniably awake. Elena's smile sharpened. "Tomorrow," she said, "we leave this room." His throat tightened. I think I'm ready." The words felt unreal as he spoke them. A boundary had been crossed. Whatever had once separated who he was from who he might become had thinned beyond repair. The room dimmed as night settled in, lit only by the vanity lamp's soft glow. Alex sat rigidly, staring at the mirror as though it might accuse him. The wig framed his face gently. The makeup transformed sharp angles into something smoother, quieter. He barely recognized himself. His reflection seemed to smile, though he wasn't sure he had meant to. The unfamiliar curve of his mouth, the softened eyes, the altered lines of his face sent a jolt through his chest. "Who am I?" he whispered. Elena appeared behind him without sound, her presence reflected before he felt it. "You're beautiful," she said softly, each word deliberate. "You just don't know how to see it yet." His breath caught. "Beautiful?" He shook his head. "I don't feel real. I feel like I'm pretending." Her hand rested lightly on his shoulder. "This isn't pretense," she replied. "It's emergence. New things always feel dangerous before they feel natural." "I shouldn't like this," he said desperately. "I'm not supposed to." "Stop," Elena said firmly, turning him fully toward the mirror. "Look," she commanded. "All of it. Don't hide." And as Alex stared into the reflection, caught between fear and fascination, he realized the most terrifying truth of all. Part of him didn't want to look away anymore. "Not as who you were," Elena said softly. "Not as the man who was abandoned. Look at her. Look at who she could be." The words struck deeper than Alex expected. His hands rose almost without permission, fingertips brushing his cheeks, tracing the unfamiliar smoothness of his skin beneath the makeup. His face felt different, softer, carefully shaped, no longer sharp with the edges he had always known. He tried to pull away from the sensation, from the warmth blooming in his chest. But it lingered, stubborn and unsettling. "What's happening to me?" he whispered. "Change," Elena replied simply. "Real change doesn't stop at the surface. It works its way inward. Every time you look, the old version loosens its grip. And sometimes," she added, "the new version is easier to accept than the one that failed you." Alex flinched, but his gaze betrayed him, drifting back to the mirror again and again. The sight stirred something dangerous. His heart raced. The silk hugged his body in ways that felt unfamiliar yet oddly natural. The stockings reshaped how he stood, how he moved. The hair brushed his neck, light and intimate. "Don't fight it," Elena murmured, stepping behind him, adjusting the wig with practiced ease. "Feel her. This isn't just fabric. This is presence. And the more you acknowledge her, the more real she becomes." His breath grew uneven. Heat pooled in his chest, confusion tangled with shame, curiosity brushing against something he didn't want to name. His fingers grazed the chamisole, and the sensation sent a shiver through him. "No," he whispered, voice cracking. "I can't be this." Elena's touch traced his jaw, gentle but certain. "You can. And you will. For now, just look. Accept what's in front of you." He stared. Memories surged, Maya's departure, the hollow nights, the feeling of being unwanted. And yet the reflection offered something else, quiet, fragile comfort. A version of himself that didn't feel invisible. The room fell silent except for his uneven breathing. His legs finally gave way, and he sank to the floor before the mirror, tears slipping free. In that moment, he understood something that terrified him. The boy he had been, angry, uncertain, left behind, was already fading. "Look at her," Elena whispered again, almost reverently. "She's strong. She's seen. She could be yours." Alex's hands rested on his thighs, fingers trembling against silk and nylon. Shame and relief tangled together, inseparable. And deep inside, where he didn't want to look, he admitted the truth. Part of him didn't hate this. The mirror offered no lies. The figure staring back was new, vulnerable, compelling, and impossible to ignore. Alex felt her pull. Beyond the doorway, Elena smiled faintly. "Tomorrow," she said under her breath. The world meets her. Morning came too soon. Alex woke with aching limbs and a heavy knot in his chest. Sleep had done nothing to quiet his mind, only filled it with restless images of Maya's smile entwined with Elena's steady, commanding gaze. And somewhere between those two faces, the reflection in the mirror waited. The silk slip from the night before still carried a faint trace of Elena's perfume, an intimate reminder that nothing about his life was stable anymore. When Alex stepped into the living room, Elena was already there, composed, immaculate, entirely in control. In her hand rested a pair of glossy black heels, elegant and severe. "Today," she said calmly, "we focus on how you move." His stomach tightened. "Movement is language," Elena continued. "Your legs, your hips, the way you hold yourself, people read it instantly. You don't just walk. You communicate." Alex stared at the shoes. "I've never worn heels," he said quietly. "I'll fall. I'll look stupid." "You will," she replied without hesitation. And that's how learning begins. The heels felt heavy as he took them from her, more symbolic than dangerous, tools rather than accessories. Sliding his feet into them sent a jolt through his balance. When he stood, the room tilted. He wavered, arms instinctively lifting for balance. "Slow," Elena instructed, hands resting at her sides. "Shift your weight. Heel first, then toe. Control your hips. Lift your chest. Confidence is a requirement, not a suggestion. He tried. He failed. He stumbled, barely catching himself on the couch. Heat rushed to his face. I can't do this. Elena stepped closer, studying him with measured patience. You can. Watch. She crossed the room, every movement fluid, intentional, effortless authority in motion. It made his chest tighten. When he tried again, his steps were clumsy, exaggerated, painfully self-aware. Each mistake made him feel exposed. And yet, something unexpected happened. As he focused, he began to notice sensations he'd never paid attention to before, the tension in his calves, the sway of his balance, the way posture changed how he occupied space. The silk brushed against him with every step. The wig framed his vision. The experience felt unreal and strangely absorbing. You're adapting, Elena said lightly. It's rough, but there's potential. His cheeks burned, not just with embarrassment, but with something else he didn't want to name. When he caught his reflection, he didn't see only fragility anymore. There was a faint hint of poise trying to surface. Good, Elena said. Now hands. Arms. Expression. Presence lives in the details. He copied her gestures, awkward and unsure. Each movement felt artificial, yet compelling. He hated how much attention it demanded. He hated even more that part of him liked the focus. Then Elena leaned closer, her voice lowered. Tomorrow, she said, this doesn't stay hidden. You'll wear it outside. Public places. Let them see her. His pulse spiked. Fear surged, sharp and immediate. But alongside it came anticipation, just as intense. The idea of being seen this way terrified him. It also pulled at him. Vulnerable. Exposed. Drawn forward anyway. And as Alex stood there in heels, silk, and borrowed confidence, he realized the most unsettling truth of all. The fear wasn't enough to stop him anymore. The silk slip he wore still carried a faint trace of Elena's scent, subtle but persistent, as if it had soaked into his skin along with the changes of the last day. When Alex stepped into the living room, Elena was already waiting, perfectly composed, untouched by doubt. In her hand were a pair of black heels, glossy and sharp, like punctuation marks at the end of a sentence he hadn't finished reading. Today, she said evenly, we train how you move. His throat tightened. Movement defines perception, she continued. Your posture, your stride, the way your body occupies space, people notice before they think. And once they decide what they see, it's hard to change. Alex stared at the heels. I don't know how to walk in those, he admitted. I'll embarrass myself. Yes, Elena said calmly. You will. And that's necessary. The shoes felt heavier than they looked, almost ceremonial. When he slid his feet inside and stood, his balance vanished. The floor tilted. His legs stiffened as he struggled to stay upright. Slow down, Elena instructed. Weight forward. Heel, then toe. Control the movement, don't let it control you. He tried. He wobbled. He nearly fell. His face burned as he caught himself, heart pounding. I can't do this, he muttered. Elena moved closer, her gaze steady. You can, she said. And you will. Watch. She crossed the room with effortless precision. Each step was deliberate, unhurried, confident. It looked natural, inevitable. Alex swallowed and tried again. Every movement felt exaggerated, painfully visible. The heels forced his body to respond differently, his balance, his stance, the way his hips shifted. At first it was mortifying. But as he concentrated, something changed. He became aware of himself in a new way. His legs. His posture. The way the silk brushed against him with every step. The wig framing his face. It was unfamiliar, unsettling, and strangely consuming. You're adjusting, Elena said, a hint of amusement in her voice. Not refined yet. But no longer hopeless. His cheeks flushed. When he glanced at the mirror, he didn't see only awkwardness anymore. There was hesitation, yes, but also the faint outline of control beginning to form. Good, Elena said. Now your hands. Your arms. Your expression. Presence is built from details. He copied her gestures, stiff at first, then slightly smoother. Each movement felt unnatural, yet compelling. He hated how focused he felt on every motion. He hated even more that it held his attention. Elena leaned closer, lowering her voice. Tomorrow, she said, this leaves the apartment. You'll wear it outside. Let people see. Let them decide. Fear surged through him, raw and immediate. But beneath it stirred something else, anticipation. The idea of being seen this way terrified him. It also drew him forward. Standing there, unsteady, altered, caught between resistance and surrender, Alex realized the truth he'd been avoiding. The fear was still there. It just wasn't winning anymore. The world would see her, and she would have to survive it. Alex's fingers trembled on the strap of his small purse as he stared at his reflection in the cafe window. The girl looking back was fragile, poised, undeniably captivating. Part of him wanted to be her, yet another part recoiled in disbelief. How much of him would remain once the world had looked at her, once Elena had shaped her completely? The mall's fluorescent lights flickered overhead, washing the space in a stark, unflattering glare. Alex sipped his coffee, and the taste seemed different, bitter, sweet, unfamiliar. Humiliation and exhilaration tangled in his chest. Broken and alive. Exposed and transformed. The journey had only just begun, yet the line between fear and thrill, shame and longing, blurred dangerously. Sunlight filtered through the cafe windows, casting gold stripes across the polished floor. He sat, legs crossed deliberately, heels pressing into the ground, every movement drawing new awareness to curves he had never noticed before. Elena sat opposite him, serene and unshakable, observing quietly. You handled yourself, she murmured. But now comes the next step. Attention. Real attention. Alex's stomach twisted. Attention? I don't want it. I don't want anyone looking at me like that. Elena's lips curved with calm amusement. Oh, Alex. It's already here. You just didn't notice. Hiding won't help. To survive as her, you must understand it, being seen, admired, desired. That energy, it can intoxicate you, and you must learn to control it. Before he could protest further, she rose, placing a gentle hand on his elbow. Walk with me. Slowly. Step by step. The world is waiting. And so is she. His chest tightened as they stepped back into the mall. Each click of his heels on the tile was loud, deliberate, announcing his presence. Every glance felt magnified. Fingers gripped the purse strap until his knuckles whitened. The reactions came immediately. A young man glanced up, holding his gaze too long. A passing woman smiled politely but lingered in a way that made his stomach flutter. A group of teenagers whispered, giggled, their eyes darting toward him. Heat surged to his face, nerves screaming humiliation. Elena's hand rested lightly on his back. Keep going, she whispered. They see her, Alex. They see her, and they can't look away. Beautiful me, the thought whispered. Alien. Mocking. Yet beneath it stirred an unfamiliar pride. Every glance, every subtle murmur, pricked at him, but it was intoxicating. They paused in front of a store window. Look at her, Elena instructed softly. Alex's eyes met the reflection. The girl in glass was elegant. Long legs, framed by heels, a silk top hugging curves, makeup softening every edge. His lips parted, eyes wide. And then, a man lingered, mid-20s, studying the reflection with appreciation, a small, subtle smile that wasn't cruel. Alex's chest tightened, heart racing with sensations that terrified and thrilled him at once. Elena's hand squeezed his elbow, steadying, commanding. Do you feel it? Desire? Admiration? I do, he admitted, voice barely a whisper, cheeks burning crimson. Good, she said softly, triumphant. Now let it wash over you without fear. Let her feel it. Own it. That's how she survives. That's how she grows. Step by step, they moved through the mall. Each glance, each curious stare heightened Alex's awareness of the new self emerging. Humiliation and pleasure intertwined in dizzying waves. Vulnerable, exposed, yet magnetic. A small brush against his arm by a waitress sent shivers through him. Heat pooled in his stomach. He tried to shrink away, but Elena's knowing smile reminded him, there was no hiding anymore. You see, Alex, she murmured. Every look, every touch, it shapes her. And the more you allow yourself to feel it, the stronger she becomes. By the time they returned home, Alex was trembling, dizzy, and exhausted, but something else lingered, a fragile spark, a forbidden flicker of confidence. The girl in the reflection felt more real than the boy he had been. Elena released her hold, letting him sink into the couch. Tomorrow, she said softly, we train her voice, her gestures, her presence. And then, the world will hear her too. The world would hear her, not just see her, and only then could Elena test how far she could truly go. Alex's chest tightened as he sat at the vanity, the apartment closing in around him. The wig, the silk top, the makeup, all familiar now, yet each glance at his reflection sent a thrill, a tremor, through his body. The heels rested beside him like silent sentinels, reminders of yesterday's exposure and humiliation, and of the power it had awakened. Elena stood behind him, clipboard in hand, calm and commanding as ever. Today, she said softly, we work on voice, gestures, and presence. What people hear matters just as much as what they see. You can be beautiful in a mirror, Alex, but if your voice betrays her, she will never survive beyond these walls. Alex swallowed, stomach twisting. Voice. I can't. I sound like me. Like a boy. All sound ridiculous. Elena leaned close, lips brushing his ear. Exactly why we practice. Humiliation is part of mastery. We strip away the old and layer in the new. Every word, every inflection, every movement shapes her, and you. She handed him a small recorder. Speak. Read after me. Slowly. Softly. Feminine. Vulnerable, but confident. Not a whisper, not a shout. Balance. His first attempt was disastrous. The voice cracked, pitching unevenly, teetering between his natural tone and the delicate, controlled sound Elena demanded. His cheeks burned crimson, hands trembling against the vanity. Elena's gaze was still, unreadable. Stop thinking. Feel her. Imagine her body, her presence. Speak as she would. Confidence isn't given, it's built. Shaky, Alex inhaled and tried again. This time, there was a tentative softness in his voice, though still faltering. Elena rested a light hand on his shoulder. Better. Keep going. Every mistake is part of it. Every attempt brings you closer. Hours passed. He repeated phrases, experimented with inflections, practiced laughter, subtle expressions, and small nuances of tone. His throat ached. His face burned. And slowly, imperceptibly, a rhythm began to emerge. The voice on the recorder was fragile, feminine, and unmistakably hers, a voice no longer fully his own. Then Elena shifted the focus. Gestures. Movement. Posture. Her hands guided him, tilts of the head, the curve of the wrist, the subtle sweep of an arm. Every motion required conscious effort, every movement felt alien and humiliating, and yet exhilarating. Mirror, Elena commanded. Watch yourself. Study her. Learn how she moves. Every glance, every sway, every flick of the wrist tells her story. Do not underestimate it. Alex obeyed, eyes locked on the reflection. With each gesture, each tentative sway, the boy he had been shrank away. The girl in the mirror was emerging, delicate, soft, captivating. Silk clung to his curves, the wig framed his face, and the heels elongated his legs, transforming him into something both terrifying and alluring. Now interact, Elena instructed, voice low but firm. Speak to me as her. Respond naturally. Flirt. Laugh. Express curiosity. Let her exist. Alex hesitated, throat tight, body trembling, but he spoke. At first haltingly, each word foreign, unsteady, almost alien. Then gradually, the cadence grew smoother, more confident. Each phrase, each inflection, each small laugh pulled him deeper into her identity. Elena watched, nodding with approval. Yes. Good. She is learning. Soon the world will hear her. Soon she will command attention. By the end of the session, Alex was exhausted. Every muscle ached. His mind swirled with a dizzying cocktail of fear, arousal, shame, and exhilaration. And beneath it all, a fragile, forbidden thrill began to take root, a spark that told him, no matter how terrifying, that she was real. Alex felt simultaneously shattered and alive, humiliated and invigorated. Elena's final instruction for the day cut through him with icy clarity. Tomorrow, we take her into the world. She will speak. She will interact. She will be seen and judged. The world will not coddle her, Alex, but neither will it ignore her. She must survive it, and you must survive her. He nodded weakly, chest hammering. For the first time, he realized the girl he was becoming could not remain confined to the privacy of his room. Her life, and his, would now stretch into the harsh light of the public. The cafe was busier than yesterday, alive with the low murmur of conversation, the clink of cups, the casual rhythm of people living ordinary lives. Alex adjusted his wig, his fingers brushing against the familiar silk of his chamisole. The heels felt heavier now, each step an exercise in deliberate balance, careful precision. Elena walked beside him, calm, commanding. Remember, she said softly, today is no longer practice. Today she exists. Speak, move, respond. The world will notice. She must survive it. Alex's stomach nodded. I don't know if I can. They'll see. They'll laugh. They'll. Elena's hand brushed lightly against his elbow. Some will judge. Some will admire. Some will desire. That attention shapes her, and it shapes you. Breathe. Step forward. They approached a small table where a middle-aged couple sat, sipping coffee. Elena leaned close. Smile. Greet them. Soft voice. Fluid gestures. No hesitation. Alex's throat went dry. Heart hammering, he stepped forward. Hello, he murmured, voice trembling and higher than he expected. The woman looked up, eyes widening briefly before softening into a polite smile. Hello there. You look lovely today. The word lovely struck him like a jolt of electricity. His face flamed crimson, a rush of embarrassment mixing with something darker, something dangerous and intoxicating. He blinked rapidly, voice barely audible, thank you. Elena's hand squeezed his subtly, guiding him forward. Sit. Engage. Ask questions. Learn the rhythm of conversation. He sank into the chair, crossing his legs carefully, fingers brushing the silk against his thighs. Words stumbled from his lips, laughter light and nervous at their polite jokes. Every glance, every smile, every subtle remark seemed amplified, exposing him to a dizzying swirl of humiliation and forbidden excitement he didn't fully understand. Later, in the cafe restroom, the mirror reflected a girl he barely recognized. Soft makeup, delicate curves, wig framing his face. She is undeniably real. His fingers traced the contours of his cheeks, trembling at the recognition of her. A voice, low and smooth, startled him from behind, the reflection of Elena watching. Do you feel it? That attention, that power, that strange thrill? She is real, and she is yours, if you let her be. Alex swallowed hard, voice breaking. I don't know. I feel embarrassed, but excited. Elena's hand brushed lightly over his shoulder. Good. That is the first step toward full transformation. Humiliation, attention, arousal, they are all part of her, all part of you. The more you allow yourself to feel, the stronger she becomes. By the time they left the cafe, Alex's body was trembling, his mind spinning. He had smiled, laughed, spoken as her, and the reactions of strangers had left a mark deeper than he expected. Shame, excitement, fear, and desire tangled together in a knot he could no longer untangle. On the walk home, Elena's voice softened but carried authority. Tomorrow, we escalate. Shopping, crowds, conversations with strangers. Tests of endurance, composure, and her femininity. She will be challenged, and so will you. Alex walked beside her, unsure, nervous, yet a small, forbidden spark of anticipation pulsing through him. The girl in the reflection was no longer confined to the mirror. She was stepping into the world, and there was no turning back. Alex nodded weakly, his chest tight with a mixture of dread and anticipation. Deep down, he realized the girl he was becoming carried a power he could no longer ignore. The boy he had once been, the timid, humiliated, abandoned Alex, was slipping further away with every public step. The morning air was crisp as he followed Elena through the city streets, clutching a small, elegant purse like a lifeline. Today was no ordinary outing. It was a trial by fire. The largest shopping district awaited them, a maze of crowds, mirrors, and constant scrutiny. Elena's heels clicked beside him with confident precision, a metronome of control. Remember, she murmured softly, her voice brushing against him like silk, this isn't just about walking or speaking. It's about surviving attention. Every gaze, every whisper, every judgment, you must face it. She is real. And she must exist outside these walls. Alex's stomach twisted with tension and fear. Each step felt like walking a tightrope. People's heads turned. Whispers followed. Some curious, some approving, some mocking. His face flushed, hands gripping the strap of his purse until his knuckles whitened. His heels wobbled under the unfamiliar weight of scrutiny, yet Elena's eyes never left him, steady and assessing. Look at her, she whispered as they passed a store window. Alex glanced at his reflection. The girl staring back wore soft makeup, silk clinging to her curves, stockings elongating her legs, heels accentuating her posture. A shiver ran through him, a mix of mortification and a forbidden, thrilling excitement. He was undeniably captivating. The reflection was hers, yet also a stranger. Inside the first boutique, Elena guided him to a display of dresses. Try this, she instructed, holding up a short, bold dress. Feminine, flattering. You will wear it. Alex froze. I can't. People will see me. I'll look ridiculous. Elena's gaze was firm, unwavering. Yes, you will look ridiculous. And yes, you will look beautiful. That is the point. Comfort comes later. Today is exposure. Humiliation. Acceptance. Step into her, Alex. Step fully. Trembling, he changed in the cramped fitting room. The mirror reflected a new level of transformation. The dress hugged his curves, accentuated his legs, emphasized his softened waistline. He ran his fingers over the fabric, tracing the unfamiliar contours of his body. His cheeks flamed, yet a forbidden thrill pulsed through him. Good, Elena said, stepping just far enough to adjust the dress. Now, out into the store. Walk, pose, move as her. Let people see. You will be tested. Alex stepped onto the polished floor. The click of his heels echoed in the boutique. Shoppers glanced up, some whispered, some stared. Heat spread across his face. His stomach knotted. Yet he forced posture, deliberate movement, a rhythm in each step, each sway, each glance, a negotiation between shame and desire. At the next aisle, a man paused and offered a compliment. You look really nice, he said, eyes briefly meeting Alex's. Alex's face burned. Voice trembling, he whispered, thank you. Elena's hand rested lightly on his back. See? Attention doesn't have to harm you. Let her feel it. Let her live it. Through boutiques, food courts, and public plazas, every interaction became a lesson, every glance a test. Alex felt exposed, humiliated, but also, against all reason, exhilarated. He laughed nervously, bowed politely, allowed strangers' eyes to trace his figure. By mid-afternoon, his body ached from the heels, his cheeks glowed from embarrassment and adrenaline. Yet, beneath it all, a fragile, forbidden pride had taken root. He had survived hours of scrutiny, whispers, and silent judgment. Finally, Elena guided him into a quiet cafe, letting him sink into a chair. Alex's hands still trembled. His heart raced. The world had seen her, and she had survived. Today was your first true immersion, Elena said quietly. You didn't just step outside as her, you endured it. You felt what it means to exist fully in public. And you survived. Alex sank deeper into the chair, his body trembling as exhaustion finally caught up with him. The weight of the day pressed down on his chest. It wasn't just his appearance that had changed. Something far more unsettling had shifted inside him. Shame, exposure, attention, desire, none of them existed separately anymore. They blended into a single, overwhelming force, reshaping the person he saw when he closed his eyes. Elena leaned closer, her voice calm, deliberate. Tomorrow, we go further. Real conversations. Unscripted moments. Judgment you can't predict. The world will keep watching her, and you'll keep learning what it truly means to live as her. Alex nodded faintly, too drained to argue. Somewhere deep inside, he understood the truth he was afraid to name. Every public challenge was erasing pieces of the boy he once was and replacing them with something fragile, intoxicating, and alarmingly real. When they finally returned home, the apartment felt unnaturally quiet. Dim light spilled across the floor as Alex stepped inside, the soft click of his heels echoing in the stillness. His body ached. His face still burned from the stares, the whispers, the moments of attention he couldn't forget. Elena was already there, composed as ever. Sit, she said gently. Alex collapsed onto the couch, his hands shaking. Breathe, Elena added. You've been pushed hard today. Let yourself feel it. He covered his face, shoulders trembling. I can't sort it out, he whispered. It's all happening at once. Elena knelt beside him, her presence both grounding and inescapable. That's all right, she murmured. There's no order to it yet. Let her feel everything. Confusion isn't failure, it's proof she's real. Tears slipped through his fingers, hot and uncontrollable. Embarrassment, fear, exhilaration, longing, each sensation collided inside him. The looks from strangers, the compliments that made his chest tighten, the humiliation that somehow felt electric, it had stripped him raw. I don't know who I am anymore, he admitted quietly. The boy feels distant. I don't know if I want him back, and I don't know if I'm ready for her either. But I can't stop feeling this. Elena brushed her thumb along his cheek, her touch steady. That's because she's no longer separate from you. She survives because you allow her to. And the boy fades because he no longer protects you. Alex's breath hitched. He hated how deeply that truth cut. He hated how strongly he felt drawn to the reflection he'd seen today, the one that had endured being watched, judged, desired. He hated how much he wanted Elena's approval, how her quiet authority made him feel both safe and undone. And yet, beneath it all, there was relief. "I don't know if I'm strong enough," he whispered. "You are," Elena replied softly. "Because strength isn't resisting this. It's surrendering to it." Every tear, every moment of embarrassment, every tremor, it all shapes her. And through her, you become something whole. Alex shuddered, wrapped in silken exhaustion, caught between despair and a dangerous sense of awakening. The breakdown he'd feared had arrived, not under harsh lights or curious eyes, but here, in the quiet gravity of Elena's control. "Tomorrow," she said, smoothing a strand of hair from his face, "we go deeper. More interaction. More exposure. More truth. You'll learn what attention does to her. What desire teaches her. And eventually, you'll understand who she really is." Alex nodded weakly, his mind spinning, his body heavy, his emotions raw. He felt drained, fractured, and disturbingly alive. As he sank back into the couch, Elena remained nearby, watchful and calm, a constant presence he was no longer sure he wanted to escape. The truth he had refused to admit to himself pressed down harder than ever. The boy he had been, the humiliated, abandoned Alex, was slipping away, leaving space for someone else entirely. The girl he was becoming, delicate, exposed, and terrifyingly beautiful, was beginning to take root. Sunlight poured through the boutique windows, tracing the sleek lines of his dress. He adjusted the hem nervously, heels clicking against the polished tiles with a fragile elegance. Elena's presence was a quiet anchor beside him, eyes sharp, movements precise. "Confidence," she murmured, almost like a mantra. "Walk. Speak. Smile." She must exist in every gesture. Alex's heart hammered. The shopping district was alive with motion, families, teenagers, professionals, everyone moving with indifferent purpose. Every glance felt like scrutiny, every whisper a potential sting. He had begun to acclimate, or at least he told himself he had, until a voice shattered that fragile calm. "Alex." Blood drained from his face. He turned slowly, and there she was, Maya. The woman who had left him for another, the one whose absence had driven him straight into Elena's hands. She was radiant, poised, and yet her eyes held something unexpected, a flicker of surprise, uncertainty, and perhaps something approaching awe. His legs trembled under the weight of the heels. His chest tightened. He opened his mouth, but his voice cracked, a fragile, high tone. "Breathe," Elena whispered, her hand pressing lightly to his back. "She sees her now, not the boy. Own it." Alex straightened, chin lifting, chest rising. The girl he had spent weeks shaping, the one he had learned to inhabit, to move as, to speak as, stepped forward. He forced a soft smile, voice quivering but deliberate. "Hi, Maya. It's been a while." Maya's eyes widened, scanning him from head to toe, the wig, the dress, the practiced sway of his hips, the delicate hands. Her lips parted, and a sound of disbelief escaped her. "Alex, is that really you?" "Yes," he whispered, voice trembling, soft but resolute. I'm her now." The words hung in the air, charged with danger and thrill. Being recognized by someone from his past, someone who had once broken him, was terrifying. And yet, beneath the fear, an intoxicating rush surged through him. The girl he had become was not only real, she was commanding attention in a way he had never imagined possible. Maya's expression softened, her voice low and tinged with awe. You look beautiful. I didn't expect." Alex's chest tightened. Shame and pride collided violently, humiliation and exhilaration mixing into a dizzying surge of emotion. "Thank you," he whispered, barely audible. It's been a journey." Elena's presence beside him was unwavering, steady, commanding. "She has transformed," Elena said softly, her voice carrying dominance and admiration in equal measure. and she's learning to survive. Stronger than you know. Maya's gaze lingered, lingering long enough to leave Alex raw and exposed, and then she nodded slowly, stepping back. I see her now. Truly. I didn't know you could. Her words left him suspended in a swirl of emotions, humiliation, pride, arousal, and a forbidden, intoxicating sense of validation. As they walked away, Elena's voice brushed against his ear, sending a shiver down his spine. Do you feel it? The power, the attention, the truth of who she is? She is real. And now the world knows it, and so do you. Alex swallowed hard. His heart raced. Somewhere deep inside, he knew she was right. She was no longer just a reflection in the mirror, she was alive, undeniable, and entirely his own. The weight of it hit him fully. Public recognition, confrontation, and unexpected validation, all at once. The girl he had become no longer belonged to the shadows of his apartment. She was alive, visible, undeniable. And somewhere deep inside, the boy he once was quivered, fearful, humiliated, and yet, strangely thrilled. The city square thrummed with life. Families strolled past, friends laughed in clusters, and the sunlight danced off shop windows, scattering reflections across the pavement. Alex moved beside Elena, each step in his heels deliberate, each sway of his hips calculated. Every movement had a rhythm now, a subtle command of space. He had grown used to being seen in bits and pieces, in fleeting glances during private lessons. But today was different. Today, he felt observed not just as a girl, but as her, poised, confident, undeniably feminine. Weeks of training, public exposure, and humiliation had melded into something unrecognizable, yet powerful. Elena's hand brushed his elbow, steadying him. Walk like this is yours, she murmured. Because it is. She belongs everywhere. She is seen. She is felt. She is powerful. Alex's chest tightened under the pressure and the exhilaration. A group of teenagers passed, one boy whispering something to his friends. Heat flared in Alex's cheeks, but instead of shrinking, he allowed a faint, deliberate smile. The thrill of notice, the subtle electricity of attention, coursed through him. A woman emerged from a boutique, offering a polite wave. You look wonderful, dear. Alex's face warmed again, but this time, it was no longer pure embarrassment. There was pride, a flicker of satisfaction, a strange, unspoken pleasure in being seen as beautiful. His soft, feminine voice replied, "Thank you," with measured grace. Elena's eyes glimmered, approval barely contained. Do you feel it, she whispered, close enough for only him to hear. The attention, the admiration, the power. She is real. And you are learning to let her exist. Alex swallowed, heart pounding. He realized the truth he had resisted for so long. This girl in the mirror was no longer an experiment, no longer a mask for private indulgence. She was alive. Tangible. Commanding in a way the boy he had been never could. They paused at the fountain in the center of the square. Elena adjusted his wig with practiced care, smoothing the dark waves over his shoulders. Look, she murmured, voice soft but firm. Observe her world. She is admired, noticed, desired. She is strong, and she is safe. Own it. Feel it. Alex gazed at the reflections in the water, at the mirrored windows of the surrounding shops, at the throngs of people moving past. Every glance, every passing smile, every subtle recognition pulsed through him like electricity. Pride mingled with shame, arousal with loss, and beneath it all, a quiet, insistent thrill. The boy he had been was fading, and the girl he was becoming was alive and unstoppable. But beneath it all, he felt a truth he could no longer deny. She was real, and she belonged in the world. A man on a nearby bench looked up, his gaze lingering for a moment longer than politeness demanded. A subtle, appreciative smile touched his lips. Alex felt heat bloom across his chest, a jolt of unfamiliar pleasure tangled with embarrassment. Tentatively, he returned the smile. Elena's hand rested lightly on his shoulder. Do you feel her? Do you feel what it means to be fully seen? The world recognizes her beauty, and now, so must you. Alex nodded, heart racing, mind spinning with fear, exhilaration, and a strange, intoxicating satisfaction. He realized in that instant, this was the tipping point. The girl he had become could no longer hide. She was out in the world, visible, undeniable. Even the part of him that clung to the boy he had once been, shamed, lost, abandoned, felt a reluctant acceptance. There was no turning back. As the sun dipped lower, painting the square in golden light, Alex walked taller. Each step in his heels felt deliberate, each smile more natural. He allowed himself to inhabit her fully, to feel the pull of attention and the rush of recognition. Elena moved beside him like a shadow, calm, commanding, reassuring, a reminder that this was only the beginning. Later, the apartment was still. Warm lamplight spilled across the room, highlighting the soft folds of the dress he adjusted one last time. The heels clicked softly on the floor. In the mirror, the girl staring back was fully formed, soft curves, delicate features framed by makeup, eyes that shimmered with fear, pride, and curiosity all at once. Elena leaned in from the doorway, serene and authoritative. Tonight is the moment, Alex. She steps into the world fully, or retreats. There are no half measures. No hesitation. Alex's chest heaved. Weeks of surrender, resistance, trembling, and growth had led to this. Public exposure, whispers, stolen glances, admiration, humiliation, desire, they had all carved away at him, reshaping something entirely new. And now, in the quiet of his room, he felt the weight of the choice pressing down. I don't know if I can do this, he murmured, voice quivering. If I fully become her, I'll never be the boy I was. But if I try to go back, I lose everything I've learned, everything I've felt. Elena stepped closer, hand brushing his cheek, gentle but unyielding. And that is the truth, Alex. She is real. You've already felt her power, her thrill, her beauty. She exists now. The choice is simple, embrace her, or let her fade. Alex's gaze fell, memories of his old life flickering across his mind. But alongside them, memories of the girl he had become pressed forward, the thrill of attention, the subtle arousal, the intoxicating pleasure of being called beautiful. Humiliation and pride had intertwined, shaping something stronger, something undeniable. He drew in a deep breath, lifting his eyes to meet the reflection. The girl in the mirror looked back, alive, tangible, undeniable. And in the deepest corners of his heart, a spark he had long feared stirred. She was more than a disguise. She was him, or rather, her. Tears pooled in his eyes as he whispered, almost to himself, I accept you. I accept her. Elena's lips curved into a faint, approving smile. Good. That is the first step. She is fully yours now. The world will see her, and she will survive, beautifully. A weight lifted from Alex's chest, replaced by a wild, liberating exhilaration. She was real. She was him. And she was unstoppable. Alex's fingers traced the contours of his face, the gentle slope of his cheekbones, the softness of his lips, the delicate line of his jaw. The reflection in the mirror no longer felt like a mask or an experiment. She was real. Fully real. And for the first time, a surge of pride, vitality, and beauty filled him from within. The coming days promised more trials, exposure, public scrutiny, tests of composure, but the decision had already been made. The boy who had existed yesterday, uncertain and lost, was gone. In his place stood a girl who was strong, magnetic, and undeniably herself. Elena, once a source of fear and control, had become the cornerstone of his transformation, a guide through humiliation toward mastery, identity, and survival. Alex lingered for a final moment, letting the reflection imprint itself on his mind. I am her, he whispered. The words were soft, feminine, steady, and yet charged with power. They resonated like a secret song finally allowed to breathe. Elena's lips curved in approval. Yes. She is real. She exists. And now the world will know her. With that, Alex stepped back, heels clicking confidently against the floor. Each step felt lighter, yet more deliberate, a declaration of presence. The past had dissolved. The boy had vanished, leaving the girl triumphant, beautiful, self-assured, and fully alive. The journey had been painful, humiliating, intoxicating, but every trial had forged a new self, one that was unflinchingly public, undeniably feminine, and wholly embraced. This girl was not a disguise, nor a punishment. She was a reality Alex had chosen, a life of visibility, confidence, and self-possession. The mirror no longer reflected doubt or fear. It reflected power. It reflected her.